Live!
Yeah!
Hello, everyone.
Hi!
This is TVGS This is very exhausted TVGS Transmissions. So we spent the entire day showcasing at RPI's Game Fest, which was extremely fun, but then we finished cleaning up about 20 minutes ago. And yeah.
That is also a lot of fun, but also very tiring.
It is. We're exhausted coming in. And I think setup took like probably 10 minutes longer than it should have because I looked at the same screen too many times. But anyway, we'll just start immediately. We are devs playing Taro Omiya's game, The Recursive Dollhouse, and it is a strange game about a dollhouse, I think is his description.
That is not far from the actual description.
We will get immediately to this transition.
Yeah.
And then I think this should be good.
So I just want to verify that everyone can actually hear us. So
I think
if there are anyone in the chat / all the moderators here in the room checking to make sure that the quality of the video is fine, that'd be great.
Yeah, sound on Twitch is fine.
Alright, cool.
And I'll just...
you could clear it up.
I don't think we're online for YouTube though.
That might be a concern. Give me a minute.
Might be
I want to
restreamed.
grab one thing important here. It's called a mouse pad. I carry one all over the place, and given that this game is about FPS controls, I'd say that's kind of important.
Yeah.
If you need to move stuff for into the light.
We need to move stuff into the light. Got it.
Yes.
Surrender.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much, John, for the introduction. Again, I'm just waiting to make sure.
Sorry. Is Twitch live?
Twitch is live.
Yeah.
YouTube is not.
I think we could be fine because that's a restream thing.
Okay.
If you want to unmute the music or do your thing.
It's not we're on YouTube now.
Yeah, YouTube gets finicky.
Okay, now we're live on YouTube.
Alright, so let's put this incredibly short music that keeps looping over and over again on.
It's like a DVD movie.
I'm just going to go through the credits just to kind of as a bit of a refresher here. I added in... Let's just get started. Alright, so this is the Recursive Dollhouse. It won the #1 Innovation Award its category in Ludum Dare 37 last year at December, in December 2016. And I made it for a jam. I made it all by myself with, okay, that's a complete lie. PD and Graham has helped out on a music composition. Hi, Stephen J. Miller. Nice to see you again. So, we are not playing Ludum Dare games, unfortunately. Well, we are technically playing a Ludum Dare game, but I'm going to be here talking about my development style, my thought process of making this game, so on and so forth. Before I start with that, I should probably talk about how I actually came up with this game idea at all. And the short answer is there is a TV show. So I'm Japanese American, and I do consume a lot of Japanese media. But one of the live action regular TV shows, I believe it occurs on a seasonal basis. It's called Yoni mo Kimyo na Monogatari, or that roughly translates in English to Bizarre Tales. I think there was exactly one season localized, which makes me very sad to the core. But regardless, every once in a while that show has these... Well, so I should probably describe the show. The show is basically the Twilight Zone for Japanese people. And, it has very M. Night Shyamalan twists in every episode, and like every episode is something completely different. Every once in a while it has these commercial length episodes where for whatever comedic reason there was a director that says, all right, we're going to make like a minute-long video that makes fun of something, and it just kind of feels strange and weird. So these include stuff like, say, a short story about a man who invented a man-eating plant, but then kills it because he was terrible at singing or something like that. But anyways, I was really inspired to make the Recursive Dollhouse when there was a short clip, I think called Dollhouse? I'm not entirely sure, but it depicts a small family where the father comes in and gives his adorable daughter, a really cool present, and it happens to be a dollhouse. So he's like, yeah, take a look inside, and this girl who's like really excited pulls open the rooftop and looks inside, and it's like, oh, that's beautiful. There's a doll right there, there's a kitchen right there, and then it's blah blah blah, and then just as she starts getting super excited, her own house's rooftop gets ripped off. And it turns out there's a giant woman staring down saying like, ooh, that's beautiful, looking down at these human creatures. So I'm like, I want to make a game that's based off of that. That's just about being stared down at. So I did not make a game about being stared down at, but it's pretty close. Let's actually play the game. So generally speaking, like one of my favorite games includes Braid from Jonathan Blow, and I really like his style of introducing these small elements over time using minimal instructions, and I try to generally aim to do the same thing with a lot of my games here. So here, obviously, controls is one thing you have to provide instructions for. There's really no way around that. Maybe there are pictures that you can use to kind of like tell them you should try pushing this and see what happens. But other than that, outside of using graphics, there's not a whole, or outright telling the player through audio or whatever, there's not a whole lot of ways that are going around that. So that's usually the first thing that I try to really get out of the way. Like, this is how you control the game. Just this is how you do it, kind of thing. So in this case, move the mouse to look around. Use the arrow keys or WASD to move, classic FPS controls. Hold shift to run. This run functionality is purely just for getting through places quickly. Otherwise, it serves no other functionality. Tap escape to pause, and then the most important of all, press space or right click to jump. This is 2.0, which means that I actually spent about a month on and off, maybe 2 weeks-ish, kind of polishing this game a little bit. So there are some subtle changes, and not so subtle changes. Like, for example, the not so subtle changes are the textures of the houses are now actually a lot more realistic than my stupid placeholder programmer art. And then if you look at it very carefully, the sun is actually moving slowly over time. So I added that in just kind of to provide a graphical variety. Also, these bouncing balls are now all random in different sizes, so that's cool.
Why is the inside shingles?
Huh?
Why is the inside of the house shingles?
Okay, yeah, I actually do have a reason behind that. Generally originally when I had this idea of creating wallpaper with very unusual patterns. Like, for example, I had an idea where the inside of the house looked entirely like clouds in the sky. Maybe one of it would look like you're inside an ocean and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of surrealism, especially Ren Magritte's artwork, so I kind of wanted to emulate that feeling. So the shingles there happens to be a pattern that I liked while searching for a free public domain textures, and I just stuck with it. These textures are all randomly generated, or not randomly generated, they're randomly chosen from a library of textures. So that's the reason why they're shingles, because the random number generator said so. But also because I actually like that texture, and personally I feel like the fact that you even asked at all succeeds in its atmospheric quality. Yeah, aesthetic, whatever. So, ironically, I consider that a strength. I'm sure a lot of graphic artists are out there crying because they're like, a programmer just said this was a good idea. You're right.
Did the ball like fly through the solid window?
I would not be surprised if that was the case. There are bugs. There are actually a couple of pretty bad bugs in this game, so hopefully we won't have to restart the game. Alright, so I should probably talk about that. You might have noticed that I don't anywhere in the game, in that instructions room, tell you to jump into the house. That was a very deliberate decision. I just kind of wanted you to figure it out for yourself that if you jump around the near vicinity of the house, that you'll eventually dive into it. But also because I think like it's important to, as early in the game as possible, give them a wow factor. And I think giving them an instruction, jump into the house, is kind of takes away that wow factor a bit. So that was a deliberate decision on my part to make that a little more mysterious, to kind of speak, to also kind of make the player feel like they're smart in the fact that they figured out what to do with this game, because essentially there's nothing else to do in that room other than read instructions and toss a ball around. And obviously tossing a ball around is designed to be as boring as possible so that you would be more inclined to just jump into the house instead. So that's my deliberate decision making on that part. That shadow bothers me. Why? Oh my goodness, the draw distance on that shadow is terrible. Anyways, this is now instead of devs play, devs complain about their own game technical shortcomings. Actually, I think when I started making this game, I never really had this idea of adding chapters into it, but I think I kind of added in midway through development. I call this a chapter anyways, because I know for a fact that a lot of people want to have a feeling like they're making progress. So I added in these chapters to make it clear that they're not going through an infinite number of rooms, which this game pretty much in its title pretty much says is what you're going to go through. At least this kind of tells them that they're making some progress over time. So yeah, this was a, believe it or not an initial decision that I made. I'm trying to remember, was it an initial decision I made to actually jump into the house? I think I did. I think when I started off with this game, I had this idea of you were just going to jump into the house, and I wanted to make sure that that worked. Oh, also, so I'm just going to jump into this next house here. But technical details as to how I do this. I actually resize each, so I actually dynamically plop in a house inside a house, over, and then just deactivate the rest. That really didn't work out. Let me try that again. So I already have this maze of houses laid out, and the first thing that I do at the beginning of the game is to deactivate all of them, except for the one that you happen to be in, and the one that you can jump into. And over time, what I do is I keep track of at least three or four different houses, and kind of deactivate them or activate them over time, and resize them or shrink them down depending on what action that you're doing. So for example, in this case, what we're seeing is one house on the outside right there. The other house that we were in at the beginning, the instructions house, has been completely deactivated because the draw distance was far too short to render that anyways. So I took that out. We're now in one house here, and we have one more house here. So right now, this system that I created is maintaining between three different houses. And again, just dynamically throwing one over the other. Actually, when I started with the game, I already had a list of game mechanics that I was going to implement once I was pretty much convinced that, with my initial prototype, that this was an idea worth pursuing. I should have mentioned that when I first made a prototype, there was actually literally a house inside a house inside a house. But as I tried to go through that path, I tried to make a 4th house, and then Unity complained that it was too small. So I'm like, alright, well, if Unity's going to complain that it's too small, then I'm going to have to obviously maintain the sizes of all these houses. So thus I'm using this system. It makes Unity happy. It makes me happy because I don't have to design the level and constantly shrink the elements down each size over. So now I have, like, when I actually open up the editor, all the houses are exactly the same size. So that makes it very easy for me to design the actual level and design puzzles that way. This is supposed to be a spring, and you can see that I didn't bother to update the textures on this. I really did not have a good idea on how what textures to replace with this. And honestly, I wanted to make sure that the springs look consistent regardless of where they're at. The silhouette of tables, for example, is fairly consistent, but the spring I thought was like a very crucial game element that I didn't feel like changing it. So I left it alone as it is. And for the people who have played it, if you're one, you probably know what this does. But for those who haven't, this is what it does. It lets you jump out of the house. There was a lot of ideas being thrown around, including Brian, who was helping me out, Brian Shirtloff, one of the IGD Albany board members. He suggested like maybe adding a door would be cool. Some people were saying like maybe you could just walk out the window or something like that. I eventually chose to do a spring only because it was technically easy. Oh wow.
Oh,
don't worry.
The game design police are on the way.
So yeah, the reason why I chose spring is merely because it was easy. It was just reversing the scaling effect. And then tossing the player upwards. So that's the reason why. There's no any specific reason. I do have like some regrets with this spring. For example, like because it doesn't animate, there's nothing to tell you that it's a spring, right? So if I had more artistic skills and understood Blender a little more, what I would do is if you kind of like, if I detect that you looked at the spring, I would like it to kind of bop up and down ever so slightly to give you the impression that it's something you're supposed to jump on. But, those are regrets. Let's talk about some strength. So, you know, here's a key here. It's sparkling. I consider that a strength. Pretty much everyone who's played this game for the first time, you know, I've noticed that literally they see, they see this, they're like, oh god, there's a code, what do I do with it? They look around, and then they see the sparkling thing, and immediately they want to go towards it, or, look at it, whatever. I consider that a particular strength. You always want to make sure that what's important captures your attention, and lo and behold, Particle Effects does a great job of doing that. But also, like, the fact that I have this context-sensitive click to pick up the key is something I'm pretty proud of as well, because, now I'm giving you instructions on where it's contextually necessary. So we pick it up, and then we have another instruction. We look at the door and it says click to open. Yay, it opened, we did it. So, this is obviously a tutorial on, we have keys in this game, you should use it. So, from there, chapter 1 is literally about, alright, where do you find the key in this room? So, hi everyone, this is TVGS Transmissions, where people bang on the window. Inside dollhouses. So anyways, now we have this new layout. You're looking around the room, you don't see any keys. But at this point, you've already pretty much sold on the idea that, hey, you can jump into houses to seek more information about it. And you're looking around and you're like, okay, I found a key. Great, awesome. Now, earlier I demonstrated what the spring does. But at this point, I'm pretty much assuming that the player still doesn't know what the spring actually does. They may have skipped it accidentally in the first room, because like you can entirely go through this room where you'll just fall here. You'll find the key, you go like that, you go here, and like, okay, you completely missed out that there's a spring at all in the previous room, and you probably have not actually attempted to experiment that. So this is a room where I kind of force you to figure that part out. So we have, a key, and we have these objects, which is already well established. at this point. Also, these objects can be interacted with the key. That's fun. But anyways, we've already established that you can't do anything with these. These are just decorations. Fun decorations. So anyways, so at this point, like, I'm already challenging you. It's like, all right, you figured out at this point that you jump into a house to go into it. Now, how do you get out? What is the only thing in here that even gives you a hint of getting out? And that's what the spring is meant to be, or that's what the purpose of this room is meant to be for. It's a tutorial on how to use springs, or really what springs do. Because, like, you know, finding a key inside this house, that's something that all the clues up to this point has pretty much informed the player on how to do. But as for, you know, springs itself, that's something we haven't informed them quite in a way that they cannot skip. So that's just my way of doing so. So let's open that. Alrighty, so we're in the next room, and I think I made this room purely to just mess with your brain, so that's fun. But yeah, there's no key here, and we're like, alright, well, we know that we got all the key from the previous room, so it's clearly not there. Maybe it's in this house, because, you know, the previous puzzle has established that there are keys inside houses. And what do you know? You're right! Oh, where's that spring? So here's me saying, like, ha! I got you now. Now I'm going to do the one thing I like to do most, which is making you feel very, very confused. And of course you do that by looping you back exactly in the opening chapter right here. And really that's just me saying, hey, this can happen in this world that you live in. No reason. Unfortunately, like, I did have a plan of reusing that puzzle where you're forced to kind of loop back into the rooms themselves. There's only one part that I do it, and it's not really hinted too well that that's actually happening. So, in a way, this is like the only real puzzle where, like, this mechanic is actually being used. Anyways, the solution to actually getting here is actually really simple. It turned out to be really funny, actually, because I didn't really think this part through, but it turned out to be this way. Seeing that every pathway you need to move forward has glass doors around them, you just have to look for, you know, glass stuff. But to be fair, I do think that puzzle does force you to do one thing, which is, like, it teaches you that this game is about memorization and recalling where you've been and keeping track of where you are. Because the next chapter in particular, speaking of which, the next chapter, the details, forces you to keep track of where the heck you are on the map. So let's talk about that. This is the first room where we introduce coded doors. And, you know, this one room right here, I made the solution as obvious as possible because, you know, at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, those numbers in the back meant something? And you're like, and I'm like, yes, technically, but I was only there. They don't mean anything in this room per se. So, I mean, probably a lot of people will be trying to type a lot of numbers in here. But yeah, you can actually find a number right here. That's literally me just saying, like, most of the codes that you're gonna find in this game are gonna be very close or nearby. I will say that I do admit I'm not exactly fond of coded doors in particular. I think I made a postmortem. I wrote a postmortem about that. 8692, I think. Oh, okay, I have to be exact. 8926. Close enough. 8926. I'm typing it on the notepad. It's just memorization is something I don't find particularly fun. And especially if it's something like coded doors, like you have to look for a code, and the game itself has a ton of ridiculous number of codes. There's codes on doors, there's code on keys, that kind of stuff. So for me, like, I think using numbers and codes makes it super overwhelming. So probably if I were to, like, make a whole game out of this, I would rather have it that it requires specific items to insert, or those items that you insert, there's a specific order to them. so that at least I can easily make the memorization of the code context sensitive. So if there's like a door that says we expect key cards in here, green key cards in 1, 2, 3 order, then I can add in red key cards and blue key cards and make it clear that they're not applicable to this door. So it's this is something that I admit from a game rule perspective, it's rather inconsistent in the mental model that the user creates. Because any code at this point could literally open this door, and you are not going to know which one it is until you try to read them. You might notice that this door doesn't have a key, or this key door doesn't have any code written in it. That is on purpose, because I realized that for the other puzzle to work, I needed to remove the code off of this key door. This is starting to become a tongue twister. I'm having a hard time. Anyways, and the reason why I say that is because I'll get back to that topic. Excuse me. So this is I kind of start this a little too soon, but anyways, this is the code where a lot of people do tend to get stuck because I don't provide much hints to it in the original Ludum Dare build. Okay, sorry about that, I didn't mean to jump into there. I don't provide a whole lot of hints in the original Ludum Dare build, but as you know, to actually get out of here, we need to go onto that spring, and the only way we can do that is to get into this door. So where's the code? Well, I did now, in version 2.0, add in a new hint, where if you walk into this house, there is nothing in here, but there is this. So I added in a new symbol here that is at least supposed to convey and let you know that you can put a key inside a house, which of course turns out to be the solution for this puzzle. Pick up a key, you drop it into the house. The key literally phases through the walls of the house because I'm a lazy programmer, and I jump in, and guess what? There's a code right there. It's 3166. Okay, so this is actually the one part where I personally think is special about this game, because up to this point when I was designing these levels, I was asking myself the following question, which is, sure, jumping into the house and out of it is really cool and all, but how is that different from just opening the door in a Legend of Zelda game and walking into the next room? And for a while, I didn't really have an answer to that until I added in those little key-coded doors. The key-coded door, at least when I did it that way, I can kind of hide the code in any place that I felt like. So I thought to myself, well, why not make a puzzle where the code that you need to read is too small and that you need to enlarge the object somehow to make it readable. So that at least now distinguishes it from a Zelda game. It's not distinguishing itself from Minish Cap, but we're going to ignore that game for now. But at least it now distinguishes itself from a generic dungeon design, where now we have a game that's about adjusting the sizes of these objects or manipulating them in such a way that either you can carry them, because you can't carry this now. You can try. You can jump on it though, that's always fun. Yay! Platforming. Anyways, so besides that, you can't carry this because it's too large. But the way I was thinking of it was, it would be really cool if there were items that were too large initially, and you had to figure out a way to get out of that house. And then there's a way to shrink. There's basically a way to shrink that item so that now you can carry it. So this becomes its own puzzle. I'm gonna actually leave the key in there for a reason. That was what, 3166? Oh, I should mention that the codes are all randomly generated. Wow, it's really dark here. So now you jump out and you're like, oh, I need a key. So, yeah. I did do that on purpose. I did want to make it clear that the keys does have multiple purposes, including exposing another code. Incidentally, so if you haven't noticed, there's codes on the doors, which means that they're supposed to correspond with what's on the key itself. And there's a puzzle later, and it's not really so much a puzzle, but there's a puzzle later that teaches you that specific aspect of things. But if I left a code on here, seeing that the code on the key and the code on that door would have also opened the code here, by memorizing the code that was on this door, could have solved this puzzle prematurely without even bothering to go through the key and dropping it into the house game mechanic, which obviously at this point you can tell is going to be crucial moving forward. There's going to that element of the puzzle repeats a lot throughout this entire game. So I took out the code on that door to prevent you from prematurely figuring out this puzzle and getting the creating the desired mental plan inside your head, making you understand that, oh, you can do that in this game. So here's another room where, we don't have the code to it. That's perfectly fine. We're used to this. We're used to the game mechanics here. It's probably somewhere in this house. Oh, wait. Could it be 8169? Could it be 9535? You try entering both of them and the answer is no, it's neither one of those. No. Just to let you know, any codes on the doors do not tell you the answer to any of the key codes. So I hope that people figure that out very quickly afterwards. But anyways, so this room, this is a fun room. As you can see, you can actually plop a key into this room. But more importantly, there are two doors. So this is kind of like my part where I'm trying to teach you a very important part of this game, which is that each key corresponds to a very specific door. And then also more importantly, if you keep telling the door to open it, it just keeps complaining at you for different reasons. Sorry, I just want to brag about that. I hate that key. Anyways, so yeah, this is me teaching you, okay, look, this key does not open either of these doors. So what is the actual, what is the hint that tells you which door this key opens? Well, as it turns out, this puzzle right here is already asking you for a code, so you're like, I've already went through that puzzle before. What if I drop it in here, find what that code is? And it says 3608. So hopefully, by process of elimination, most people would have gotten that since the code is 3608 and that does not match 8169, nor does it match 9535, that they're like, okay, that's the proof. That's how they figure out what key, where the code, or what key corresponds to which door. 3608. But in case people didn't figure that out, we solved this puzzle and it says 3608. Yeah, celebration. Jump into the next house. And as it turns out, there's already a door that's marked 3608. So they'll be like, that happened to be the exact same code that I typed in. What happens if I click it? It opens a door. So now that we have an establishment here, the code that is written in the key also corresponds to which door it opens. It is only important in this specific chapter because as far as I can tell, there's no other place where that information actually is important. So here it is. We got another code. We have no idea what this code is. Great, awesome. That's okay. I'm sure we can find out what that code is off of this key that we have. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, whoops. So, this is the room that we were in previously. We dropped a key in there, we jump in, and then it says 8169. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. It was already established earlier that code 8169 and the door 8169, the code is there to tell you which door that key opens. So my hope is that distracts you long enough to try actually opening this door. And voila, here's the actual code to the door that you did. So again, this is me just kind of like revising that rule, making sure you understood through that previous action that I did, that you can figure out which key that opens to. Although, to be fair, at this point, it's process of elimination anyways, because there's only 2 other key doors, so that key was going to open one of these doors anyways. 1, 4, 4, 5. And you can probably see that it shrinks over, it shrinks. That label gets blurrier. You can kind of still read it from here, though. 1, 4, 4, 5. Alright, cool. Yay! Yeah! Grab that. Let's get out of this Lego room. Oh, if anyone's curious, give me a minute. If anyone's curious what this does, it does nothing. I simply put it there for consistency reasons. Actually, no, there was at one point a time where I had a puzzle in mind where that swapping between objects was necessary, but I didn't pull it in for this one because I'd rather the player not have to go through inventory management. Anyways, last key, last door, process of elimination. No need to verify the code. They can move forward. The finale! Yay! Yay! So fun fact, that last set of rooms in there, if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of backtracking in that and keeping track of where you were at. When I was trying to solve these puzzles and designing these levels, I actually got lost in the second level. So I told myself, I should probably make the third part a little easier. So this is the slightly easier level. And once again, same to all the other chapters, the first thing I do is establish some sort of game mechanic. In this case, we have a switch. You turn it on, it opens the door, you turn it off, it closes the door. Cool, awesome. Oh, here's yet another switch. Turn it on, opens the door, turn it off, opens the other door. So we're having an establishment here that, different pattern doors open depending on what the on or off switch of this switch is. I should mention that in the earlier build, when we were making the Ludum Dare stuff, when we were making the Ludum Dare build, each lever would have a code on it. The recent one changes this so that none of the levers have codes, and consequently none of the doors have codes either. I just thought that was redundant. I thought that it was easier to make more interesting puzzles when I established that every single switch opens every single one of these switch doors and vice versa. So every switch also affects all the other switches and so forth. So I didn't do that deliberately, and I did do that specifically for the next room, which actually utilizes this new logic. Sorry, I was a little thirsty. Here we have, a code which locks out a key, and we pretty much got in how the pattern of this game works. It's like the code is somewhere in this room. You just have to find it out. Either that, or maybe it's in the other room. Yeah, let's see if it's in there. Well, there's 118. We should try that. Even though I just spoiled to you that key codes do not actually reveal anything. So yeah, obviously that code doesn't work. We're sort of at a dead end, but that's okay because there's another house out here. And by the way, if you're paying attention, there's something weird going on right here as well. This is a new puzzle. You jump in, and oh yeah, we had this door before. We know that when we turn the switch on, that'll open the door. Oh wait, that snap! We just closed ourselves in. What should we do? So, I mean, that's kind of like the logic behind making every switch open every door. It allows me to kind of create this scenario where you're locked in the room, and it's just a matter of figuring out. I just have to open that, get out. But more importantly, I completely skipped over this part, which is the fact that by opening this door, you can see outside the window the code to the other door that's blocking, that's holding the key. Now, you might be asking to yourself, why did I make this, a door instead when I could have just made it a window? Actually, it was to grab your attention. It was a very deliberate game design decision, where it's like we see this, and instantly, because throughout the entire game, it's been about figuring out how to open doors. I thought that this was a compelling way to encourage you to look into what's inside that room. And as it turns out, there's nothing inside that compartment, but the job has already been done. You're already looking out the window in this case. And you're probably noticing, hey, wait, it says 2, 9, and then 0. So you probably want to take a closer look, and there it is. It's that little tiny wall print that you saw outside earlier, 2980. That is the solution to the puzzle. Oh yeah, and then there's this too. I forgot about that. And by we, I. 290. So key codes, fun fact, while developing, took the longest to implement because Unity's global GUI system is really, really weird, and I could not get it to react to your mouse clicks properly. So this build fixes that by allowing you to. I just opened that door, by the way. That key belongs to that door. And then we already have this established thing here. You can look out the window and see that the door opens. So where was I going with that? Darn it, I lost my train of thought. Where was I earlier? Oh yeah, key codes taking forever. So the UI, when you're putting it in world, is really weird for Unity. And the only way I could get it to work was to disable the mouse locking. But that created a new problem because now you couldn't look around anymore and you couldn't move around. So for the longest time I was trying to solve that. I sort of didn't by instead forcing you to not be able to control the camera at all. So, I did fix that eventually because you can't control the camera right now, but at least you can, at least it fixes the camera to the right position so that you can see all the keys. So far, whoops. Let me actually skip back to that. Cool. Okay, so this is actually a remnant of a puzzle that I tried making, and then the idea was that you would find the solution at the very dead end of this very long string of houses, and you had to recurse backwards by jumping all the way back to be able to find the code and enter this key code. But, or no, I think it loops back so you would jump into it and you can enter this key code or something. It's really weird. It did not work. I did not think that through, and then I typed it and I tried actually playing it, and then I realized, oh wait, this doesn't work. This logically cannot work. So this is actually a really gimped level. Excuse me. This is. I apologize. I didn't mean to use that word. This is just like a really shortened level. So yeah. So, initially, this puzzle right here, you were supposed to get back into this room, and actually, the solution would be to jump out once you do a full recursion, but that didn't work out. That's great, though, because this room turned out to be a great way for me to make sure that in the next room that we're jumping in... Oh, interesting. It's a yellow room on a yellow table. Anyways, so that this turned out to work out pretty well because this forces me to tell you, hey, you need to have the switch in a very specific state to be able to enter the next set of puzzles. So here it is. We have a key door. We keep going in because that's what the puzzles go. Alright, we got the key. So that's cool. Hey, there's a key door here. Doesn't open that. Alright, cool. There's a key right there, so probably that key opens it. You can jump out, open this door, and there's a lever. So I admit that like this portion, despite the fact that like the puzzles in each room is fairly compact. Okay, by the way, that closed this door right here, but it opened this one. Even though like the puzzles in here are pretty compact, like I feel like the puzzle also is very linear in the sense that it doesn't really attempt to give you the opportunity to experiment a little more with what you have, and then eventually finding a solution to it. So like up to this point, it just felt like really just going through the motion. So I wasn't really a fan of this portion of the room. And you might notice there's another room that uses a very similar mechanic of trying to string together a bunch of lever pushes or figuring out how to use which order to put the keys in. I didn't find that to be. I'm a little regretful of those puzzles too, because I didn't really find that really to be fun or mentally stimulating. So here again, we now have a puzzle with this little ink blot thing earlier. Well, if you notice something, this dollhouse is a dollhouse that we've already been in before, the one that was asking for a code earlier. So this is actually my recursion puzzle rearing its head again, albeit in a way that really most people probably did not notice. But anyways, here it is, 8943. Oh, whoops, I tapped the wrong number. So yeah, I made sure that the window is right the window where you can see the code is right next to the door, so that'll be really easy to do. Yeah, you can tell it's a recursion here because this is the door with the lever and I'll just keep moving forward. A little tired. Cool. We're almost there. We're almost in front. This one's simple. It's just establishing. It's just reusing the same knowledge that you had earlier. That hey, this is a complicated maze of figuring out which door to open. So we have no access to that switch. We have to find the switch in here. Here it is. That should open the next set of doors, and that'll get us to the next house. And that's it. We did it. So that's basically it. That's the Recursive Dollhouse in a nutshell. Those were the line of thinking, those were the deliberate decisions I had in mostly designing a lot of these levels. Yeah, that's basically it. I think the way I approach this is figuring out, alright, what are all the mechanics in the game? Because the way I usually design these, and you can actually kind of see this in one of my other projects, Through Oneself, there's a debug level where you'll see that there's a lot of elements in the game that I don't actually use anywhere throughout the actual game release that I had for Ludum Dare. But anyways, what I usually start off with when making these games is actually program together all the mechanics for that game first. And then later on figure out how to piece them together into a level. So my approach to this game, of course, then is I made, the keys, the doors, the key codes, and the switch. And then from there, I asked the question of, all right, how do I construct these levels such that they incrementally tell you important information about how to use that key or how to open that key code, how to look for that information, and so forth. So then from there, I construct these levels with that in mind. Obviously, I started off with key only because I suspected that was a video game trope that most people understood right off the bat very quickly. So my line of thinking with that is, well, this thing that everyone understands that very quickly, and it's very simple to do. It takes only 2 clicks to achieve that. One to pick up the key and one to open the door. I started off by introducing that mechanic first. From there, there's the lever thing, from there, I introduced the key code thing because I really wanted to be able to show off that different size environments, the game is about deliberately changing the sizes of elements to get the results that you want. So I wanted to introduce that as fast as possible. So once I got this whole key mechanic being introduced, I went immediately to the key code or the coded doors, so that you have this now element where size actually matters. The switch was kind of an afterthought when I put it together. I thought I had like a really cool idea in mind. And granted, now that I had the time to create a new puzzle, I do have really cool ideas in mind. But at the time, I don't feel like I really fully utilized them during the Ludum Dare time frame. So I'm a little adamant about that feature. But still, at least that was there to spice up the action, to kind of add one more element to a game that has pretty complex sequences of puzzles to solve anyways. So yeah, those were all the puzzles, those were all my line of thinking. How I approach developing games by making game mechanics first and then creating levels out of that later, and so forth. If there are anyone in the chat that has any questions, feel free to ask them now. In the meantime, I'll see if I can speedrun this.
What are ways you're thinking about expanding this?
I actually want to increase the inventory from one item to multiple items, and I was thinking about adding new I actually like to approach this thinking like it's a Zelda dungeon. So I wanted to actually add in like permanent items as well that you can carry around. One idea I had, for example, was being able to carry around a water sprinkler that can carry water and that can suck up water and pour water into dollhouses so that you can flood them and swim all around. So that's one idea I had. Another idea I had was maybe there are tables bolted on the side of the dollhouses, so you can carry a dollhouse, bolt it on the side, and explore that dollhouse sideways. Right. Jamie and I were talking about this game, and other ideas that he had in mind included laser puzzles, where maybe you can rotate each of these dollhouses and basically have mirrors popping out of them. I personally wanted to be able to carry dollhouses from a first place, because let's say you have a dollhouse that has a lever in it. What if you had a puzzle that's all about pulling levers at the right time? So again, for that game to actually work, you would require multiple inventory space.
Yeah.
So that was the way I was thinking of that. There's a lot of other ideas that we had in mind, so I'm not going to list them out right now. But yeah, we were expanding on it with some significant changes first with the current set of mechanics, such as you're only allowed to carry one item, limitation to now you can carry as many as you want kind of thing. 2305.
You're gonna have the interchangeable antimatter keys. You ever notice that the keys in Zelda dungeons, they'll disappear once you use them, but they're universal in that they can work in the fire dungeon or the leaf dungeon or the forest dungeon or the water dungeon?
I think it should be that way, honestly. I'm not a fan of codes. And the fact that right now figuring out which key belongs to which door is dependent on codes is something that I'm not a huge fan of. So yeah, I'm probably gonna adopt that mechanic. I do like the fact that Zelda makes it simple. It's like if you have a key, it opens a door. It doesn't matter which one.
Yeah.
And that usually is a lot more intuitive from a game design perspective, or from a player perspective. And generally speaking, I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing makes sense to the player. Whoops.
Have you thought about perspective puzzles? Like, you know, there's like a giant lock that you can only unlock by sticking the key in the house instead of on the door itself.
I'm stealing that idea. Yeah, I did have ideas about. So, I mean, in this game, I'm obviously reusing the same dollhouse model, but I was thinking about maybe having different shaped and different sized dollhouses. In particular, like, I had ideas about the fact that, let's say, the whole, carrying water game mechanic. The real reason why I had that in mind was because I wanted to be able to put in I wanted to be able to like have a puzzle mechanic where you're supposed to grow a tree, and then you drop that small tree inside a dollhouse and climb up of it inside that dollhouse. So that's one idea that I had in mind. But in regards to like perspectives, like the whole pulling the dollhouse sideways is an interesting way of approaching that as an example. I was thinking about somehow making each of these dollhouses animated in some way for, certain reasons. Like maybe there's a dollhouse that's always spinning and and I don't know, you need to make milkshake or something. 6, 9, 7, 8.
So a dollhouse on a spinning mechanic or levitating mechanic or oscillating.
Yeah. I was thinking about maybe there's a dollhouse that's on a table that can that acts like an elevator, and there's an on and off switch that you can just turn on within the house to have an elevator. I was definitely thinking about actually adding doors into dollhouses at some point, but instead of walking out causing you to grow in size, it keeps your size consistent so that you'll be stuck with it inside this like gigantic house. Obviously, we need to somehow limit that in some way, but that was something that I had in mind that I wanted to do.
Would you have like more complicated like dollhouses, or would you keep like the same model?
No, I definitely think we should have more complicated houses. For that matter, I was thinking about maybe 6, 9, 7, 8. I was thinking about what if we had puzzles where which side of the dollhouse you enter affects where you fall in. So like it's like a really long house, and if you enter from the right side, you fall in the right side. If you fall in the middle, you fall in the middle. You jump into the middle, you jump into the middle. Then left. So like that kind of gives you like you have to figure out which door to enter. Mechanic. Oh, this is a bug. I can't open that.
Oh.
I don't know why this happens. I guess I need to research into it. Alright, speed run over. Everyone can go home. Any other questions? Any questions from the chat here?
Nah.
I don't really got many people on the chat. Actually, I think,
Steve isn't even still watching. It's just myself and the channel itself.
Cool.
Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Play the game. Check out my website at omiyagames.com. Also, check out our most recent Ludum Dare game. It's called the Intergalactic Gold Rush, created by Patrick, Robert, and I.
So I guess like I don't know, keep playing while I close out.
We will be. What are we doing next week?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So next week, we are next week we're most likely going to be doing Ludum Dare games.
Yeah.
Because voting will be open and we can start voting, and we will have a form for people to fill out, so people can like sign up with their games, and we'll make sure that gets spread far and wide. Our game club game this month is Life is Strange. I think we may only get like the first couple episodes. Like it's a 5 episode game where each episode's like a couple hours. So I think we may only like reach like the first 2 episodes. We'll have to play that by ear. Because for us, like I think we're going to be like finished with the game club by the time we like actually have the second stream for it. So maybe a little tricky. But anyway, next 2 streams at least are Ludum Dare and Life is Strange, and then some mystery stream we don't even know yet. After that, another devs play.
Oh yeah, fun fact, there's a ceiling in this.
There is.
Yes, you can tell because of the bouncing thingies.
Interesting to have like. It'd be interesting to have one where it's just like a ceiling that you can't get through, and you only find out by bonking your hand on it when you use the screen. Yeah.
That has happened very frequently while I was trying to solve bugs in this game, but that's besides the point. It's possible to, for example, land on top of like doors, and that used to cause a lot of problems. Anyways, so next stream, next week, Ludum Dare. Yes?
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Alright. I'm just dawdling around at this point. Shall we?
I think we'll call it a night.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. For future listeners, we don't have much for listeners
That's
right now.
true. I don't know. It doesn't look
Alright.
nice.
Hit stop.